8 years, and she died in November of 2007. Ms. Hannah was an outstanding citizen who contributed to the city in many ways. My acquaintance and association with her was as she served as accountant bookkeeper in the school board when I was there. But a lover of the city of Bastrop. She and her husband were great contributors. I believe he was in the car business for many years, but she was an outstanding person, and her legacy is to be long remembered. She served as a predecessor to you ladies, and she is to be appreciated and remembered for her contributions to the community. Would you recognize and honor her with a moment of silence? Thank you. She will be further recognized with an appropriate documentation from the city of Bastrop presented to her family. Ms. Robinson, if you will lead us in a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us, that we can use it for any way we want to. But Father, we ask that you just help us to praise you. Father, we ask you to keep in mind that we might be intelligent in the decisions that we make tonight and be equal in our decisions. Father, we just thank you for this lady that preceded us to kind of help us in the job that we have to do. And Father, I just thank you for your many, many blessings. And I just thank you that you have given us the opportunity to serve you, and that we always know that you are our Jesus Christ. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Hamlin, will you lead us in the pledge?
Will you turn your face to the flag, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you for your attendance, and thank you for bearing with us as we've tried to adjust these and eliminate these technical difficulties. We recognize and appreciate those of you who have come to be a part of this. This is your government, and we thank you for being a part and being active participants as well as observers of this process. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll to determine if a quorum is present?
District A.
Present.
District B.
Present.
District C.
Present.
District D.
Present.
District E.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Let the record show that a quorum is present, and we are in order in doing our business. A couple of announcements as we proceed with our business. Cleanup days will be occurring March 21st through 23rd. You can see a lot of activity occurring around City Hall. We're changing the landscape and changing the appearance here. We're a work in progress. Soon the fountain will be functional. The last parts of that apparatus will be delivered and installed very, very soon. There's a collaborative occurring between the City of Bastrop and the Boy Scouts, a Boy Scout troop here in Bastrop. They'll be coming in on Saturday, and as part of their projects, they'll be doing some planning of some greenery. So the collaborative is between the City of Bastrop employees, the Keep Morehouse Beautiful group, Main Street, Friends of Main Street, Boy Scouts of America, and various interested citizens. So we really appreciate all of them for their participation. There's some parish shell sites that will be open on Saturday at no charge. The parish shell site will be open. That's the place out on 165, as I appreciate it. The dumpsters will be out there. So this is a freebie, as I understand. The police jury is allowing people to be able to come and dump out there on that day at no charge. Also, during this period of time, there will be dumpsters placed in strategic spots around the City of Bastrop. And those dumpsters are being made available through another collaborative between the City of Bastrop, I believe International Paper, and the Bastrop Enterprise. These dumpsters will be placed in the newspaper. You guys are listing, Wes, as I appreciated, the sites where the dumpsters will be. These dumpsters will be placed there for the public to come and use, and we are encouraging folks to put the trash in the dumpsters, not around it. If the dumpster is full, don't put it on the ground. Just hold up and let somebody know, and we'll come back and try to make some arrangements. There will be a special site on the parking lot of the Ditto building for this event only, for tires to be taken. People who have old tires that they want to get rid of, there will be a special dump site at the Ditto building parking lot. It will be roped off, taped out, often easily visible for folks who want to get tires to bring them out there, and that will be just for that occasion. Now, after that weekend or that dump period is over, don't take tires out there afterwards. We got a situation that we're dealing with in Bastrop where a place was taking tires and they stopped and people started a habit and they're just dumping them without any kind of regulation. But you'll be reading about it, you'll be seeing it in the newspaper, and people will be talking about it. There'll be a major kickoff event, as I appreciate. This is on the 17th, Ms. Martin? Yes. There'll be a major kickoff, and there'll be coverage of that event. And this is part of the Keep Morehouse Beautiful, which is preceding the Cleaner City contest. You see a lot of activity going on with sidewalks being edged, grass being cut, cleaned up stuff, and it's all stuff that we try to do all the time, but we're using some intensity, increasing the intensity of it. There's several infrastructure projects still happening in the city of Bastrop. The state of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development is getting ready to overlay, I think it's Highway 830-something-1, which we know is Harrington, Larch Lane, and Van Avenue. They're going to go about, is it 3,000 feet, linear feet, starting at the light at Washington by Bastrop Superfood, going in to Harrington to the corner of Larch Lane, turning north about a block, and then going down past the intersection of Marable and Van and stopping on the hill, I think, just behind the fire station. Sorry? Yes, sir?
They're stopping where?
Stopping just on the hill behind the fire station on Van. That section has been overlaid several years ago. So this is finishing up what they did. It's time to overlay the other part, but maybe they'll get around to it later on. But that's this project. Prior to the state coming in and doing that overlaying and rebuild of that street, and as I appreciated in talking to Mr. Jones, Public Works Director, they're also going to be doing the curbs and gutters, because one of my concerns has been in overlaying streets, and especially on those streets in original downtown Bastrop that has curbs and gutters, when they overlay the street like 165 going west and south. When they overlay the street, they overlay the riding surface, but they don't do anything about the curbs and gutters. So the street is much higher than the curbs, and the gutters are sinking down, and that's causing a potential hazard. But they're supposed to do a complete job, and we hope make some modifications to the drainage system over there. Prior to them overlaying, I wanted to be sure that our sewer had the integrity, that had good integrity, good integrity, so that we wouldn't have to go back in there and patch it after they did the overlay. So, is it J-Bar? J-Bar Construction Company has been cammering, and they've been doing some slip lining. And Jesse, I think they're about through with that project. Arthur, Jesse? Yeah. They finished going in and retrofitting the sewer system under those streets. And as I'm being told that there's like a 60-day window before they come in and start the overlay process. We're doing some sewer projects throughout the city of Bastrop as part of our ongoing maintenance and project situation. So Bastrop is moving along. We're having projects that are on the verge of happening, and you might hear some of this from Mr. Litchfield when he comes up. But we're working hard. We bought a significant new piece of equipment about a month ago. We have a road grader, which is going to help us do the shoulders of roads and do other stuff that we need to do as far as moving land is concerned. The road grader we had, Mr. Jones, was 1949 road grader. For those of you who like antiques, you have an opportunity.
Put it on eBay, Mayor.
On eBay?
Yeah.
Get a buy.
Might get a buy. Ms. Goldman, you have it on another agenda too, don't you? So the only requirement is if people buy it, you got to take it with you then. We don't want you to leave it here. But, and we also, let's see, don't I have an item on here as it relates to the fire truck, Mr.? Okay. You'll be hearing and hopefully taking action and giving us permission to proceed with purchasing a new fire truck. We haven't bought a fire truck in a while, and it's time for us to cycle in another vehicle on that. But that's where we are. We have a lot of things going, stuff that we need to be doing, and things that we're being innovative. I made my quarterly trip to Washington last week and met with Senators Vitter, Landrieu, and Rodney Alexander, and some other senators, representatives at least, that are from the state of Louisiana, and various department heads and agencies that we are doing business with. We're being sure that the projects that we have ongoing are still on the table. And our strategy is many of the projects that we have, one major one is like moving the sewer plant, the one that's down on Martin Luther King South. Our long-range goal is to move that facility to another location because the demographics of that community have changed. And it used to be an unpopulated area, but it's surrounded by houses. That's a mechanical plant, and we need to move it. That's like a $15–16 million project. And what we're doing is getting pieces of money. We got a $400,000 grant a couple of years ago, got $196,000 this past year. We're asking for another $2 million this year. We're asking for help from the federal government to give us assistance with our streets and airport and the bypass planning. With 425 coming south, we realize the impact that's going to have on downtown Bastrop. So we have to do something about creating an alternate route around downtown Bastrop. All of the work that we've done to restore downtown will be destroyed with the increased volume of traffic. These are long-range projects, but our approach is dealing with them in incremental pieces. In incremental pieces, so that's working well. We were well received by our delegation. Rodney Alexander will be in the area again on Monday, and I plan to be with him for a short visit. He's aware of our needs, and we'll just keep that going. Our state government is going well. I just left Baton Rouge a few minutes ago and visiting with departments there. We hope that as they figure out how to get rid of all the money that they have down there, that some of it comes this way. So since they decided they don't want to have any surplus, we'll take it, and we can find much use for it. Let's move on with item number 5. Keep me in order, please. Item number 5 is the approval of the previous minutes of February 14th meeting. You've had a chance to peruse those minutes, and what is your pleasure?
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes, Mayor Hoffman, with the exception of one type of graphical correction that I've circled, Ms. Goldman.
Okay, a motion has been made to approve the minutes with the necessary corrections.
I second that.
Jointly seconded by Mr. Gordon and Mr. Lenore. Is there any other discussion? If in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item number 6 is the Finance Committee report. Mr. Hamlin?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept order 08, 4158, bills and claims for the month of February.
Mr. Hamlin has made a motion.
I second.
Ms. Robinson seconds his motion. Is there any discussion? If you are in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
If you oppose, say no. The yeses have it. I changed on y'all, didn't I? Y'all,
You know you got all yeses?
nobody said aye.
That's right.
Yeah, that means y'all listen to me sometimes. Okay, the ayes have, the yeses have it, and that the Bills and Claims Financial Committee report has been adopted. Ms. King, we're so glad to have you. We hope that you and your family have been doing well, and we appreciate your presence.
Well, thank you. I always like to come to the meetings and kind of give you an update on what's going on, and also find out things that are happening in the city. I've had a busy month this month, and during February is short, but it seems like I was just here. But I want to just go over a few things that I've been working on. And one project that I would like to ask the city's assistance on is that during the past year, I've been working with the MEDC has been working with a USDA grant to do some mapping out on 165 West outside of the city limits of Bastrop. But as we all recognize that the community as a whole is everyone's concern, and we realize that there's a lack of sewer facilities out in that area. And the same grant program that we received $25,000 from, that we've completed, is available again, and we may be in line to get some additional money. And I presented this to the board of directors for MEDC, and they are supporting the effort to create a small sewer district in that area, figure out what we need to do to create a small sewer district in that area, whether it's tied into the city or as an independent district. We're not sure what direction we're going to go, but we recognize the need for infrastructure, sewer and water in that area to have growth, particularly as you were discussing, if we have a bypass come in, that to really get the full benefits of a bypass, we have to have these facilities. So this is just something to develop a cost estimate, to kind of look and see where we might be going on this, and we will be developing a budget over this. It's due the end of the month. I would like that the city might consider writing us a letter of support for this project, even though that it's outside the city limits, that it would be an important project to this area.
Is that area inhabited?
There are some businesses. The city limit stops at the area right in there where North Point Ford is at.
No, behind my house.
Right. And so the highest area that I see for development would be from about that point out to Point Pleasant, maybe possibly to the golf course. So that's the area that we're concentrating on right now. And we do have the ULM property in there.
One of the things that would be a benefit to us as we make a decision as it relates to support, I'd be interested in knowing the population. You're talking about the corridor, just the highway corridor, land
Yes.
adjacent to.
And that is one of the problems in that area, is that we don't have population, and sometimes we do look at these projects, and I hate to use the example of we might look like we're trying to build a Sunshine Bridge, you know, if there's not houses and businesses there. But for growth, we can see what's happened on the Sterlington area, where they got a grant to provide sewage collection in that area, and we can see businesses springing up all along that area.
Okay. My reason for engaging in the discussion is and Mr. Lawrence's expertise will be important on this. If there aren't a lot of individuals who have residences along that corridor, members of the Board of Aldermen, that might be an area that we might want to consider annexing, because as I appreciate it, individuals who reside in an area make it more difficult because of Justice Department issues. And I'm visualizing that area that you talked about, and there are very few, less than 5 or 10 houses that are actually on the highway.
Yes, I believe most of this is going to be business development in there.
And most of the houses that I can think of, and as I visualize it, are going to be on the bayou side between the service station on Point Pleasant and going down. So that makes it more easily, I think, annexable. That's right. Because we don't have to deal with as I said, the Justice Department issues. And if we were going to be supporting an effort to provide infrastructure, my personal feelings, I'd lean more positively toward supporting and providing infrastructure to something that's in the city of Bastrop than outside. Y'all kind of get the feeling of where I'm going with that?
Yes.
And it would be easier. We just had a discussion, Jesse, Tuesday, in talking about the future infrastructure needs of the city of Bastrop, and as it relates to what I just talked about a minute ago about my trip to Washington and the ask that we're making from the federal government, we were talking about what additional loads that would be on our sewer system. At one time, early in my tenure with the city of Bastrop, we were talking, EPA was talking about requiring municipalities that had viable wastewater treatment programs to take in smaller systems like Maplewood, like the system off Cherry Ridge Road, because they were having such a difficult time in meeting the permit requirements. I think they might have backed off of that, but as we talk about enhancing and making improvements in our sewer system, we talk about it from the perspective of our future needs, whether we think our population is going to grow, whether we think we're going to add to it, additionally impact us to it. So this is very appropriate. So we'll have continued dialogue on that.
Mayor Hawkins,
Ms. Robinson?
I certainly would be willing to see what we could do, because I was approached a couple of months ago from a gentleman that already has business out there about whether or not we could put water lines and sewer lines in, because he wanted to expand and he has no facilities now to handle it. So I feel like this was a good area for that.
And I as well have been approached by people, particularly in the area of Courtesy Ford, in that area where we have vacant parcels, and being aware that, you know, we're not really that far from the city's ponds at that point.
Yeah.
I think that's...
The one facility on 165 beyond the city limits that has access to our sewer system is, what's that name now? Courtesy Chevrolet?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, it's Courtesy Chevrolet.
Courtesy Chevrolet. And Arthur, was it probably just before 1989, just before I got here? When they built that facility, was it George Clark?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Clark the one had originally. I mean, there have been several people wanting to get on the sewer line, but they don't want to be annexed into the city.
Yeah, and they can't get on that sewer line because that's a pressure line. That's a pressure line, Jesse, as I appreciate it, that's specifically designed to carry the load from that one facility. So if it were a traditional sewer line that was gravity flowed with a series of lift stations or whatever, they could do it. So you're right, and that's been an issue, Mr. Hamlin. People want our infrastructure services, but they don't want to be a part of our other regulations, and that's something that we've kind of adopted an unofficial practice in the city of Bastrop, that we have not been adding people outside of the limits to our sewer system unless they were agreeable to coming in, because they want the milk, but they don't want to feed the cow. Whoa, no.
I'm glad I didn't say that.
Okay. I was under the impression that ULM property was on the south side of 165. But I was down that way Monday with someone, and they were telling me that ULM also had property on the north side.
Yes, they do. In fact, from Mr. Hawley's house that was in the Hawley family home, up to where it's a track just before you get to the golf course, but all up in there, all the way to the bayou is ULM property. And then on the southern side, we start just before Speaker Road, and it goes, and then it kind of makes a real strange shape, and it goes back down into some wooded areas. But it's approximately 2 miles of frontage.
Don't I have a plat of that in my conference room?
Yes, you do.
I guess they realized it was also on the north side.
Yeah. It's a plat up by my board on the easel, Mr. McKee, please.
And that's another thing that researching this, and I've been working on this project for a couple of years, on researching the Speaker property that was donated to the university, that it can't be sold. But one of the things that limited the growth in there was not just that, but it had a 20-year farming servitude on there that was in favor of the Hawley family. That farming servitude ended in 2002. So there would be a possibility to do some long-term leases for the university in that area. And I've talked to Mr. Hawley about this before, so I mean, he's aware that I've been working on this project. And sometimes you work on these projects a long time, and if this were easy, someone would have already done it. But I think that that's one of our highest areas at current areas that we have potential for growth coming up from the Sterlington area.
Could I ask a question while we're on the subject of annexation?
Ms. Olive?
Going on 165 in the other direction towards Walmart, I recall we had a request from someone in regards to annexation. Did we ever make a decision on that, and is that something we could work on concurrently with what Ms. King is requesting?
We definitely can.
But no, we didn't.
We didn't make a decision. Okay.
We didn't make a decision, but we can work on if in my position, and Mr. Lawrence and I have talked about this, and I think with Ms. King, if we do decide to do an annexation, we need to try to annex everything that we want to annex at one time rather than doing it in piecemeal fashion. The paperwork Mr. Lawrence that he has to go through, the contacts and the stipulations and the surveying that has to be done is significant. And there's a foundational bunch of stuff that has to be done, no matter what the size is. Is that correct? That's true. So if we're going to do it, we might as well, do the whole pyramid rather than doing a slab. Okay, this is a.
This is something that we did at the very beginning of the project when we started, and this was provided to us by the assessor's office.
Would you point to 165 going down through there?
This is NAF. Wait, no, I'm sorry. This is NAF. This is the courtesy, and
North Point.
no,
That's courtesy down there.
courtesy
Okay.
right here.
Okay.
And then there's NAF,
Okay.
and then this really has a line around it. It just didn't show up dark on this. This is the Holly home, and then we've got a few tracks
Okay.
in there, but
165. Just run your
this is
pen down
165
along. Okay. Good.
coming
Thank you.
down. And as we come here, it's not on here, but that's the golf course
Okay.
in there. This is the International Paper pond, aeration pond.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a odd-shaped piece of property, but
One of the things that we had worked on is we talked about that is, I don't know if we defined yet how much of that is what is considered wetlands.
well, you can kind of look at the areas that
That look wet, huh?
Yeah, and you can kind of look at the areas probably that have the least flooding are going to be the areas that are under cultivation.
Okay. So your position is that if we, right now there is no infrastructure through there. The only thing that happens down through there is some fiber optic lines going down the highway, maybe some gas lines on the highway.
Yeah, we have this is the pumping station at Courtesy is right here where we pump back to the city.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, from approximately up in here all the way to the parish line, there's essentially from this point right here, there's no water service in there. And that's another thing that we're kind of addressing in this too. Just to develop a cost estimate of what these things would cost, because then you know what to go ask for. But if you have no idea what you want to do, how you're going to do it, or how much it's going to cost, then you're not going to get funding for it.
Help me with this, and not that I want to not that we're trying to divulge or expose any information as it relates to the current farmers who are using that, but you said that was a 20-year...
There was a 20-year farming servitude on that property when Ms. Speaker deeded it to the university.
What does that mean?
It means that it was encumbered with a stipulation that the Holly family had the rights to farm it for rent,
Okay.
but that they had the first right, I guess kind of a right to refuse it or whatever, but they had the rights to do that. And that relationship has continued with the university up to today, but they're just not legally bound to it.
Okay.
They're doing it
ULM has
a
options.
couple of years at a time.
And this is the ULM Foundation, is that appreciated?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you were going to look at developing that, and we've established that the wet areas would probably fall under the wetland stipulations, whatever they are, then the developable portion would be the portion to the north of 165,
Well,
between there and the bayou, and then that section up between Neff and coming south in that farmable area. Is that what you're saying?
well, the areas that I think are probably the highest probability is this area. We have this cut off where it comes up to the bayou, but there's an area right in here.
But that's not the Speaker ULM property then?
This piece in here is owned by the Falk
Okay.
family,
Okay.
and then Boyd Holly owns some of the property. The Holly family owns some of the property.
And that's high and dry?
On the flood maps that I have,
Okay.
it does not indicate that that's in any kind of flood hazard area. But on the other hand, we do have flood hazard area around on the other side of this with a few little ridges that you'll see houses.
That's following the bayou though, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, but the thing that creates in there that's particularly interesting to me, it creates kind of a natural buffered area. And unfortunately, for many industries, they're finding it more and more difficult to find areas that aren't being encroached on by housing developments.
And
They
the conflicts that go along with them.
don't like to locate next to schools and, things where you have high concentrations of people. So this really kind of lays out some natural buffered areas or in between some of these flood hazard areas that I think kind of make some ideal situations for some industries. So,
Okay. All right.
and I'm just going to move through these others. We spent quite a lot
Please.
of time on that. But I went to Baton Rouge Tuesday, and we worked through some of the paperwork on the SMI project, and everything looks very good. I'm trying to kind of stay on top of this because the City of Bastrop is the sponsor on that project, making sure that all of the paperwork is turned in. The Louisiana Economic Development is very pleased with that project. I mean, this couldn't get any better. It's a Louisiana company expanding into an area where we have high unemployment. We've met the goals for employment for this year, and so that project and that company is being looked on very favorably, and they are very interested in expanding in this area. So I hope to be bringing some more concrete things to the City Council on that. I did meet with Fran Gladden, the Undersecretary of LED, and I had an opportunity to talk with her about some of the problems that we have in rural areas, building infrastructure, that I don't think that people realize, but when we lose jobs in Morehouse Parish, we have lost many jobs, but it would be International Paper closes a mill, they still own the property. The liquid packaging is closed, but International Paper is using it as a warehouse. We lose huge amounts of farming jobs, but in all of these, as you see, there are never any assets turned back into the community like you see in many areas like Alexandria, who had an Air Force base, that had a huge Air Force base given back to them, and that I'm pleading for some special consideration, and maybe we can get some of that surplus that we need, that we have some special circumstances because of the type of job loss that we have. And just to go through Bastrop Tank Wash, the sale on the Bastrop Tank Wash is moving along very well, and I do think that we're going to have a closing on that soon. And that I just wanted to remind you, I am continuing to work on the Economic Development District to give us some another avenue to get some state incentives. And I just want to remind you, I haven't forgotten about that I'm continuing to work on that. Hope to have something for you by the next meeting. And that's about, unless somebody has any more questions.
Mayor,
Ms. Robinson?
I approached you a couple of years ago about a request for cable out at the industrial park.
Yes, ma'am.
Did it ever happen? Do they have access to cable now?
Yes.
Did they ever have access to?
To cable television in that area?
Okay, did you, cable, not long distance?
No. Just
Cable television?
Right.
Okay.
Well, internet access, I think is what you were talking
No,
about.
ma'am, she's talking about cable, that's why I was.
Well as internet too.
Okay, and that's why I was being sure that I understood what your question was. You can speak to internet.
Okay, on that, I know that there was, we never did, that grant was out when I
Okay.
got the job.
Okay, we need Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Would you come over, Mr. Ernest Floyd is our IT person, and he's helping us with the grant, so he and Mr. McKee will probably share with you on that, because there's something that they are aware of that you might not have, Ms. King. And this is related to a Delta Regional Authority grant that the City of Bastrop received several years ago, and we've been working toward providing the internet access that we're segueing into.
Correct. Right now, we sent the paperwork over to the Delta organization, and it's under review. That does not include Suddenlink's cable system, because they're not running any trunk lines out there. So we're going to do it wirelessly. We're going to blanket the entire industrial park.
And this is for internet service, not for the television service.
Correct. This is internet only, not television.
And what we're doing is, technically, Mr. Litchfield is here, but technically because of Mr. Floyd's expertise, we're going to be coming into the airport, as I appreciate it.
Correct.
And then we're going to be beaming a signal, a wireless signal.
Correct.
Into the industrial park.
Okay.
High capacity, high speed.
Correct.
Whatever.
Correct.
Big megs.
Correct.
And security, is it passcoded or limited access? Or
No, that would be an open internet connection, because it would be too difficult to password protect everyone in there. But we're going to put a device out there that sort of protects it getting back into the city infrastructure or anything like that. It would just be blanket open internet access, like a lot of cities do who provide blanket internet when they blanket a city.
And free. And free.
Correct.
I don't think they care how they get it.
Right.
As long as they can get it.
They have some what is it, T1 or what does by you have? I forget.
DSL.
DSL through Bell South, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, and I wasn't aware of this, and this is
Yeah.
great news to hear this, but I think that some of the immediate things that we had happening 2 years ago, which was very slow internet access, that the DSL did become available out there, so it kind of alleviated some of the pressure to get it out there immediately. But this
I
is,
think the cost has
Right.
been prohibitive, and where we were is the grant that we had was not enough money to do hardwire or to do other, well, at that point, state-of-the-art, providing with that kind of technology, but with increasing technology and the expertise of Mr. Floyd, we're able to fit the service into the funds that we had.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. King. Okay, Mr. Litchfield, do you have a report from the Morehouse Memorial Airport? Since you just came back from Dallas, you can
just landed from Dallas.
Just landed.
I wonder where that town.
This is Steve Litchfield, y'all.
I didn't recognize it.
We've got to represent
He doesn't look
our,
like he's from Hawaii today, does he?
That town.
we've got to represent our city in downtown Dallas. Yes, sir. One of the big conversations down there was Kurt Schaefer was down there, did his spiel. Safety.
Kurt Schaefer is.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's the director of airports out of Washington, D.C. He's the boss of our region, or in fact, all 5 regions in the United States. He was down there. They had a bunch of meetings. The federal people kind of became encased in shell after that meeting, but then Mr. Schaefer spoke to the general group of 550, and he laid out a mandate for security and safety. It's absolute, that's it. That's, you know, for airports. The reason was, for some reason, they allow themselves 50 major incidents a year to occur. In other words, they say, okay, we're going to have 50 is our limit. To date, they've had 28, and he's absolutely adamant about not exceeding 50, and we're not even close to mid-year yet. We're, you know, more than halfway there. So he's
Which speaks to our fencing project.
Yes, sir.
And the necessity of securing the entire airport property.
correct.
And we'll get more details on this, but a fence will enclose the entire airport, going behind the industrial park, going down to a particular point, coming around, making not a square, but encompassing that, along with some other security items and devices that we have.
Right, the entire 440 acres. Right after he talked, I got to sit for a while with Mr. Pat Vaught, who's our regional representative, FAA. And he says that if we can put it together by 1 May, he will consider funding a fence from the guard hangar around the terminal out towards the hangar 2, the maintenance hangar, and then down to the industrial park.
Okay.
And install the 3 electric gates.
Okay.
There'll be one to the emergency management, one to hangar 1, and then where the locked gate is now, that'll be a code. It'll be key codes, key coded gates. So got a lot of work to do to get ready for that, but we're going to try to get that done and funded by June 1st.
1 May or 1 June?
Well, 1 May, they have to have everything by 1 May.
Okay.
1 May. What had happened is they took we got the $3.7 billion that everybody was concerned we were going to get.
Not Bastrop.
No, sir. No, sir. That's the entire industry, the entire aviation industry, $3.7 billion. The problem is, out of that starting 3.7, all the salaries for the FAA have to come off the top. That's $80 billion. Then a few special projects come off the top. That's a few more million. And what's left is $2.67 billion for airports. And of course, we just get the crumbs from, it starts at the major airports and comes downhill. But we do all of our projection on 100% funding. But now the feds have rolled it back because they're only funded through 30 June. If Congress doesn't extend that Senate bill reappropriation, they're out of work in June 30th. If it's not, of course they'll extend it. But anyway, you do all your work at 100%, then you have to scale it back to 75% funding. So you figure all your work at 100%, they're only going to fund us 75%.
Just to give you a little direction in the way that we're trying to go with the airport, with the super renovation that's happening in Monroe with the Monroe Airport, they're discouraging small aircraft, personal aircraft from coming in there. And as I appreciate it through you and other aviators, it's more difficult to fly for a private pilot or to fly into a major airport.
They give them a hard time, yes, sir. You have a perfect right to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
But to take a little airplane that goes 90 miles an hour into Dallas-Fort Worth would be suicide. I mean, they look for any excuse to.
So we're trying to position ourselves to be an alternate site for smaller aircraft and aircraft owners, because they can land here. We have a courtesy car. They have access. They can land here, be in and out of this airport, go where they want to go, come back, take off without a lot of red tape. And but we still have to be sure that the airport is secure and have some other safety features in place.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Ms. Ali.
Mr. Litchfield, would you talk about the 28 incidents per year and
The federal,
explain that a little more, please?
it was just announced to us Monday. There are several thousand accidents a year, but the FAA has this goal of no more than 50 major accidents. They don't want to see more than 50, even though there's thousands. Catastrophic, like the one in Florida yesterday. The plane landed upside down, killed all 4 people. It's pretty catastrophic. They've had to date 28 major incidents with aircraft. And with a maximum of 50 for the year, you can see, we're not even halfway through the year, and they're more than halfway to their target, and they're upset. They're upset. So safety is the prime.
Okay, thank you.
The funding, we received our seal coat. You all saw pictures of that. It's really looking good. New striping. We did the reflective tiles that the city bought. We've got them down. It looks like a ribbon of green at night. You ought to go take a look at that. That was kind of our project for '07. We hopefully get this partial fencing in '08. We were scheduled originally for the entire fencing job first part of '09. And then we'll take another project and submit it. Dimon Engineering was represented in Dallas, and he sat down with me with Pat Vaught for the fencing project. Now the great news is we're getting an emergency generator given to us or granted to us from the state, no charge to Bastrop, 60 kV generator. It'll power the terminal, heat, air conditioning, all the lighting, and all the airport lighting. And the pad's been poured, and we're waiting for power systems out of Shreveport to deliver the generator. And it'll be wired up and hooked up by Bannister Electric out of Monroe, and that's a freebie. It fires itself up once a week and checks itself and shuts down and just sits there and waits for a problem. Homeland Security is real interested in that because that'll be a place to go, and the city should be interested in it too, because I believe we're going to put some internet, about 100 internet addresses. Yeah, just there, so you can come out with your laptops or plug into it. We have wireless remote, so the pilots love it. I've had a lot of comments on that. They come in with their laptops and use the wireless remote, even if in the middle of the night. They like that. The new instrument approach system, I think there was a sheet in your packets. In the past, to come into Bastrop on an instrument approach, you could come down to a given height, say 600 feet, 700 feet, fly to the airport, and if you could see the ground, land. This instrument approach, and I saw a demonstration in Dallas, will add a glide slope, and that's all that paper shows, to try to show you. It'll actually have a glide slope to the runway, like a precision instrument approach, but it will not be precision. But the demonstration was better than a precision approach. They had the two side by side on a film.
That's a little bit too technical for us, but that gives us the capacity
to
do what?
250 feet.
Okay, so that gives us people.
It gives us a slope.
Okay, that's good. That's important to power.
First time in the history of Bastrop, so that's good.
Okay.
Let's see. We've ordered and we have on hand for tenants and transit to use aeronautical navigation charts. We have them for the pilots that fly visual rules. We have them for the pilots that fly instrument rules. The cost of the city is $100 a year. They're reproduced every 56 days. So we'll have all current navigational charts out there for people to use. Just a flight plan with, but they'll be current charts. And that's and some instrument flying handbooks and stuff like that. So pretty good deal for $100 a year. Lastly, the Bastrop Wings is still looking for an airplane that'll fly so we can start training the youth, because we've got like 9 that want to be pilots. So we're still looking for an airplane. We'll find one. I passed out cards to everybody in Dallas from 5 states to try to find us an airplane. Well, we'll get one. But I just want to say I super appreciate city support for the kids out there. Their little corner of the hangar and all you do for them. I appreciate that. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Richard Gillett. He's got, we have a check that he gave us that's already in the bank, but he has a token he'd like to present to the mayor on a donation for the kids.
Mr. Lawrence, with the ethics regulations, can I accept? What can I accept?
Bastrop Wings.
It's a token check.
It's a copy of a check that's already in the bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All these witnesses up in here, I don't want to be the This was a copy of a check for $1,850 to the Bastrop Wings. We really appreciate that organization and the efforts that they'll be exerting will definitely use this in a wise manner. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to briefly thank the council. It's a pleasure to come out to the Bastrop Airport and work with Bastrop Wings. And I really appreciate, by showing your support, I was able to garner some support and in the form of a monetary contribution from an organization. And again, it's all through your efforts and your support for our kids out there learning an education in the aviation industry, which is really a lot of opportunity in that, should they seek that career profession for their livelihood in the future.
Is it all right if we mention the organization that's always?
Yes, it's the Knights of Columbus organization.
From West Monroe, Louisiana, so we need to acknowledge them as well. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just from here, Mr. Litchfield, Mr. Jones, just briefly, what's the progress on the trees? The trees that...
Yeah, one of the fronts blocking the signal. We got to move through.
Okay. So we're moving toward the completion of that tree project?
Oh, yes, sir.
Trees?
Yes, sir.
Trees. Thank you, sir. Good enough. Thank you both. This is a pleasure situation. Mr. Jake Orals is in the back. He's in a position he's not used to sitting back there. Come on up, Mr. Orals. Just gonna put you over there on the spot. How does a retired person look?
Great.
How many months has it been?
3.
3. It's hard to remember working.
Yes, it is.
This is a resolution commending Jake Orals upon retirement as Assistant Public Works Director, and it has a bunch of whereases in there. But from the heart, we just appreciate what you have done for this city and for the community, because the recreational program in Bastrop serves not only citizens of the city of Bastrop, but in Morehouse Parish. And it's appropriate that we have members from the previous city council here as well, who you worked with, Ms. Jerry Jordan, who will attest to the work that you did, not just with this group, but with all of us. Now, we have 2 of these. What did y'all tell me to do with these? I'm sorry? Okay. Now, did y'all leave space on here for me to sign this? We're going to fix that? All right, then. Ms. Jordan, would you honor me by coming up, please? Ms. Jordan, yes, ma'am. Thank you. representing the past city council that you were a part of.
I'll have to say it, he was never too busy to answer a phone call and a plea for help. But he's had some good training back there too.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrow. We appreciate you.
Thank
you for what
I
you do.
enjoyed the service.
All right. Are you on call?
No.
He is, he just doesn't know it. I think we're next on the- Tom, we're next on the
Speak,
agenda.
speak.
Come on, we're waiting for speeches.
Well, thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is Mr. Tom Hardy and Ms. Jordan, I think, is with him. And I'm sorry. Oh, we need to pass the resolution. If you're in favor of adopting this resolution, recognizing Mr. Jake Orles, would you please give me a motion first?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Gordon does.
Second.
Mr. Lenore seconds it. If you're in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed should say no. Okay. It's official now, Jake. All right. Mr. Hardy and Ms. Jordan.
Thank you for letting us get on your agenda tonight. We're getting ready for the Crawfest that's going to open on April the 9th, and we'll be out there till April the 13th. And you know, what's good crawfish without good beer? So we're here for Tom Hardy to get his beer license. And if you haven't eaten his crawfish, you haven't lived, if you like crawfish. And I'll turn that over to Tom, and he can request his beer license.
Thank you. Yes, we'd like to have a 3-day permit, which we usually do in the past, for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Crawfish Festival. And we hope you all come out and we'll have some good, large, select crawfish and all types of other food and all types of other vendors.
Yeah, we'll have entertainment every night. So it's a fun thing. I think we should have called it a spring festival because it comes when we're all tired of being shut in the house and in the rain and the cold and the snow. Quit frowning, Arthur. Come on out. You'll have fun.
But it said from the 9th to the 13th,
13th is on Sunday.
but it asked for 3 days.
You can only have a 3-day beer license.
Oh.
But now if you come on Sunday, you can bring your own.
But Jerry, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's 4 days.
But the beer license is only for 3. They're gonna be open
10,
4,
11,
So
and
come on the
12
first day, you don't get any beer.
but on the last day, on the 14th.
for the first day.
14th is a Sunday.
No, if you come on the 9th, you don't get any beer.
10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
10,
Not
11.
on Wednesday.
Here you are.
Just Thursday, Friday,
I got
Saturday.
it right here. But ain't no beer. 10, 11, 12 beer. 13, no beer.
Oh, you
Need that.
You reading the request, huh? Okay, let's be sure that we have the request to coincide with what you want. Help us again. Tell us again what it is that you're asking. 4 days.
For the 10th, 11th, and 12th of
Okay.
April.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Saturday.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's the 9th?
The 9th is Tuesday when we, Wednesday when we open.
So again, you're going to be open the 9th and the 13th, but you won't be selling beer on those days.
We will not be selling beer on Wednesday or
Okay.
Sunday.
Very good. I'm clear. Is everybody else clear? If I said get clear, everybody else should be. Okay.
I make a motion.
But before you make that motion, if you hold, just to be on the safe side, is there a requirement that you have to do something with the state?
Yeah, I have to have a state license, and I have to post it up there,
Okay.
and I have to.
Mayor, we write a letter to the effect that you and the council approve this 3-day permit for that function, and he sends it to
So
Baton Rouge State.
we have to act first. Okay. Mr. Hamlin was about to make a motion.
Yeah, I make the motion that we grant permit.
I'll second.
Ms. Olive seconds Mr. Hamlin's motion. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say no. The ayes have it, I think. Was that unanimous? Did anybody abstain? You granted.
We do thank you.
Sure.
And Mayor, I'd like to add something else. I think you're doing a real good job. Mayor, I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your inspiration and support. We appreciate the path that you guys established for us to follow. Okay, We're going to skip item number 11 and move to item number 12, which is to have a discussion and/or to take action on the fireworks ordinance 074152. The requested changes have been made. In our last Board of Alderpersons meeting, you expressed your wishes to change our current fireworks ordinance by eliminating bottle rockets. The term was bottle rockets. And we had a discussion. The vendors, one of the vendors who sells fireworks immediately came up before we left the building and wanted to know, did that mean just the little 5-ounce bottle rockets, or did it mean the larger rockets that were on the stick? Mr. Lawrence, would you come forth and give us explanations and/or information as it relates to this? You have a copy of the ordinance, and I think I asked staff to underline or highlight the changes or additions that were being made to the current ordinance. We took the current ordinance and well, I'll let Mr. Lawrence tell us.
Thank you very much. It was necessary to make 2 changes in the existing Code of Ordinances to accommodate the request that was made by the council. It involves sections 9-20, which is a definition section, and also the creation of a new section, which is 9-34. My understanding was that the change that the council wanted was to merely outlaw the sale and the use of bottle rockets. And one of the things that we had to do was to define what a bottle rocket is as best we could, and also be sure that it was not included in the type of fireworks or pyrotechnics that are legal during the time period that fireworks may be discharged and sold within the city. So looking at 9-20, the first changes that we made was to go into the section that deals with the definition of fireworks and also the definition of pyrotechnics, and to be sure that we excluded from those 2 items, which are legal items, anything that would define what a bottle rocket would be. And then we skip over to section 9-34, which is the new section that will be added to the Code of Ordinances to basically say that it will be A, unlawful to sell or offer for sale these devices, and B, unlawful to ignite, discharge, set off, or explode these devices. With that said, only the bottle rockets represent the items that we are saying that you want to prohibit. Everything else is permitted. One of the challenges that we had, of course, was in defining what a bottle rocket is. We basically say that it is any type of rocket to which is attached a wood or other type of shaft of greater than 2 inches in length that may be used to launch or discharge the rocket. We couldn't come up with anything better. We're open to suggestions,
Okay.
but that's the definition that we're using.
Describe that again.
It is any type of rocket to which is attached a wood or other type shaft of greater than 2 inches in length that may be used to launch or discharge the rocket.
Anything attached to a stick, and the stick is more than 2 inches long.
Yes, sir.
That's ignited and it goes up in the air, basically.
Right.
So that includes what we traditionally think of the little bottle rockets with the thin stick on them, and the big rockets too with the sticks on them as well.
And what we tried to do was to stay away from just using the term bottle rockets as the lone definition, because that could be a trade name, and if somebody wanted to get around the law, all that they would have to do is just change the name of the product and keep selling what they're selling.
So this is describing a device
That's right.
that does the things that we don't want to happen. Is that the direction that we want to go in?
I have a question.
Ms. Robinson?
What if they use some other type of attachment, like sticking it in a bottle or can or whatever? Is that taken care of in here?
Well, I think this is my definition of a bottle rocket from when I was small. Something that looks like a firecracker, that has stick on
And blast stuff out the back.
Right.
That rather than pop.
it. Right.
Goes up.
And I mean, there are different sizes. If someone were to do what it is that you just said, I mean, I guess you could do that with a firecracker or any other type of firework type device, but I don't know if it would fly or if you could make it launch without the stick on it. So I'm not, I guess, versed in this enough to know whether or not it would prohibit what it is that you're asking.
Well, I have another question too. What's the penalty if they sell a bottle rocket?
I'd have to get my ordinance book,
Okay.
but the penalty remains the same. There's a uniform penalty for all of these, because there are a number of provisions that deal with the fireworks ordinance. And so there's no change from what the penalty is now for every other violation for an illegal sale, say on a day when it is outlawed. No penalty is being changed. And of course, no criminal penalty in the city of Bastrop can be greater than a $500 fine or greater than 30 days in jail, or both.
Okay. The other problem that I see is, how do we determine, are they going to be inspected when they set up shop? Because if you go outside the parish, since they didn't change their laws, and they buy them out of the city limits and bring them inside.
I think that's probably about the only way that you can police this and enforce this, and that is to actually see someone with it and consider it contraband if it is seen.
Okay.
Now, be under 934, if they can't go outside the city limits and buy it and bring it back in the city limits of Bastrop, because it's unlawful to discharge in the city limits of Bastrop, ignite or discharge. So
Okay.
even though outside the city limits of Bastrop, they can go out there. If somebody sets up and sells out there, out across the street from Walmart, which is outside the city limits, if they sell out there, they can go further out on Morehouse Road or go anywhere else and discharge them, but they can't come across the street on the Walmart parking lot to come in the city limits and discharge. And if they are observed by our law enforcement officials, they have the right to charge and arrest them. Mr. Hamlin, you were about to say something.
No. Go back over that again where you told me you tried to get away from the term
Bottle rockets.
Because
Right, because if that's used as a trade name, and if that is the only thing that you describe in the ordinance, it is prohibited to use or to have or to sell bottle rockets. Well, then you could just change the name of the product and call it something else, rockets, and keep selling the same product. So you have to get away from describing something just by a trade name. You have to describe what the device is. If you're gonna,
what it does and what we don't want it to do.
that's right.
Now, in
good.
response
Thank
to,
you.
kind of in response to Ms. Robinson's, you know, and if you remember, I brought this up. Everything else that goes up is not prohibited. I don't know if you can still sell Roman candles or not. We used to call them Roman candles, the thing with the tube, and you're supposed to stick it in the ground, but we used to shoot at each other with them.
Yeah.
But it goes up in the air and it discharges. Those are still allowable. The things that I told you I like to buy in the squares with the 45 or 50 discharges that go up and do all kind of funny glittery stuff and fall, that's still allowed. But I think you told me that the complaints were about bottle rockets, and that's why bottle rocket kind of devices. There's things on the stick that go up and, you know, either bang or go up and do stuff. So that's why we narrowed it to what you said that we wanted. Now, this is the point that if it's, and the discussion at this point is this what we want to prohibit? And if not, if this is not it, we need to have discussion so that we can modify it and adopt.
One last point I forgot to make. You will note that this does not prohibit you from having it in your possession. There was a section in the ordinance that talks about authorizing the manufacture of fireworks in the city. In other words, big plant can open up and manufacture it, so we stayed away from talking about possessing it because there's no way to make it and not have it, among other things. So it is the use of it, the illegal use of it, and the selling of it that's illegal. It's like, whereas in Tennessee they can make, in the county where they make Jack Daniels, they can make it, but they can't consume it or sell it. So,
They want the money from the manufacturer,
Right.
but not the...
right.
Okay.
What did you say? What did you say?
Well, what it is, there's a section of the ordinance that says that the city licenses the manufacturing of fireworks.
No.
Oh, about the other deal, about Jack Daniels?
Jack Daniels.
Oh, well, from my understanding, in the county, it's either in Tennessee or Kentucky where they make the product.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. They can make it there, but they can't sell it there.
Is that right?
Right. So it's sort of that type of principle.
That'd be good.
I just read a
Mayor,
lot.
Ms. Robinson?
I'd like to address Chief Montgomery and Chief Walker
Okay, would you two come up, please?
to, the question I have for you is, in the past, the calls that you've had when the houses caught on fire or whatever from bottle rockets, do you have a problem with the other instruments that Doug is speaking of, as far as setting a fire?
No, we really don't. It's a minor inconvenience, but we love the kids.
Okay.
Okay, the question I think you're asking is, the fires that have started during fireworks season, have they been the results of discharging of bottle rockets, or have other devices been responsible for been the causative agent? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
that's a yes or no?
No, we haven't had
Okay.
a big problem out the other devices.
So your investigations have shown that the fire started from bottle rockets?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. What about you, Chief Walker? The problems that you've had with that?
I do not remember ever getting a call on a fire, a house fire. Grass fires, yes, we get grass fires.
Okay.
And like the mayor said in the previous meeting, and he just repeated tonight, anything that goes up with fire on it, it's gonna come down with fire on it. And that can start a fire. I don't know any other way to explain.
So
And bottle rockets are not the only thing that go to.
but if you had another device that went up and caused a fire, and you had to go out on a fire call or whatever call with the police in tow, then there would be a punishment for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
all I ask. Thank you.
Okay. The other piece of this, and Mr. Lawrence has been very clear in this, that the other changes, the times and the dates for discharge are still the same, and part of the controls, a part of maintaining the integrity and of quality of life is we're going to have to require our fire and police departments to enforce these times if it's going to be effective. Okay. Ms. Olive?
Yes, sir. In our last meeting, I recall, I requested that the vendors post a sign stating that when the hours of discharge and anyone caught discharging outside of those hours, that it's punishable by law. How do we address that? I know this is generic to the product, but the other part of it.
Okay. What would be required is we would have to stipulate in the permitting process.
Right.
What is it, Mr. Lawrence? Go ahead.
And that's what I was going to suggest. When you sell them an occupational license or a permit or whatever it is that you sell to them to be able to set up shop, you can make that a requirement, that it's a condition to receiving licensing for that purpose.
Okay. What is it that again, you want to require the vendors to post the times that fireworks can be discharged
And the dates.
and the dates
Yes.
at their expense?
Well, at whoever. I mean, is it costly for the city to request that? I mean, posting of a sign and to state that it's punishable by law?
If we do, we'll just add it to the cost of the permit.
Okay.
I don't know, Mr. Lawrence, if it would be necessary that we have an official kind of statement to that, or if you left it to the discretion of the vendor.
It'd be in fine print.
You know, you know where I'm going with that?
Right. Are you suggesting that we should just do a generic type of notice, and when they get that permit, they get the sign too? You know, that's.
To me, it would make sense about consistency. Chief Walker, if you remember when we used to have problems when we had problems with liquor stores and establishments, and we required that they put no loitering signs up, we specified that no loitering signs had to be a particular size to be visible and all.
Yes.
Otherwise, it was hard for you to enforce it because somebody could say, I didn't see the sign and all. So
It's a real small sign.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
So if we're going to do that, we probably need to specify, either provide the signage and add that cost into the permit,
Do we have to
or
have,
be as specific as
do we have to have a motion for that?
Well, what we need to do is adopt the ordinance, and then the rest of it will be procedural that staff would take care of.
Okay.
It is ready for adoption at this time. We've already
Because
gone through
there are no changes in this document, we want to be sure. Okay, we're ready for action.
Make a motion.
Mr. Hamlin does.
Second.
Mr. Lenore seconds, and then Ms. Oliver is about to. Jointly second. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no. The ayes have it. Staff, be sure that we have, and Ms. Oliver, since you're mentioning this, would you get with staff to be sure that we get the wording and get the content of the signage and directives?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Am I at 13?
You want mine?
Okay. Discussion and/or action on proposal for the real estate developers with the historic rehabilitation services for the property at 715 South Washington Street.
What is this saying, man?
This is talking about the renovation of the high school, the old high school building. Part of the process, and where's staff? I need to be sure I'm saying this right. We need to advertise for bids for a developer. Is that correct? Ms. McKee, you want to come up? Mr. Lawrence? Okay, the two of you.
Let me just state this right quick. This is part of the Hope Seeker grant we received a few years ago. And one of the requirements from HUD is that we have a developer, and we do RFPs to get a developer. This is part of the process, and it's paid for, developer is paid for out of the $500,000 grant. Mr. Lawrence has a copy of it.
There were a couple of recommendations that I had about this, because when I was talking to Mr. McKee, the way that this is set up, of course, the city is intricately involved in the hiring of this person that you're sending the RFPs out for. That is, the city is involved in the hiring of the developer. And what we wanted to be sure to say was that everything is contingent on funding remaining available, having adequate funding, and funding remaining available to pay the developer, and also that at some point all of the other transactions that are involved, like the transfer of ownership of property, that actually goes through as well before the city is just bound and obligated by this process. And the way this is set up, I mean, it is typical. It is not something that we should be concerned about or disturbed about. It's in the regular course of business. It's just that if something were to happen and this project were not to come to fruition, the city would not want to be obligated to pay a developer or to remain obligated to a developer that it would not need. Not trying to be pessimistic, but just trying to be clear about it.
Okay. The criteria and qualifications of the developer are stated somewhere. Was that a part of the package? Or?
I made a request of Mr. McKee. I wanted to know, he confirmed for me earlier that there were guidelines that are set forth evidently in the Hope 6 grant package. Because that was my question about those guidelines and even about this RFP process. So he assured me that the Hope 6 grant guidelines govern what it is that we were doing.
Okay, they specify the competencies and...
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good then. We need action on this, please,
Let
unless
me
there's a
ask a
discussion. Miss Olive.
Who owns the property while it's under renovation? Did they ever decide on how it would be deeded during that time?
You know, I'm not sure. I'm not, at this point, I have not been directly involved in that, but I have had a recent discussion with someone about it, and I'm not sure about the answer to that part. But I would think that before someone breaks ground and starts doing work, they would want to be sure that that's clarified.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay. Are we ready? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept this.
Okay. So you're giving us permission to
Seek.
advertise for a real estate developer for the historic Bastrop High School building. Ms. Robinson makes that motion. Is there a second to her motion?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Gordon seconds Ms. Robinson's motion. Is there any other discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If you oppose, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Chief Montgomery, would you come forth, please? What we're doing is talking about taking, we need to get permission to go out for bids on this fire truck or enter into a lease agreement.
Yes, actually, it'd be done on state contract, and at the time I approached the mayor about it, we're not asking for any new monies. This is already a particular line item that's already in our budget, so we wouldn't have to have, as a matter of fact, the payment would go down, you know, a couple of $100s from what we were already paying. What happened, we paid off a previous apparatus, and the money is already there, and I asked him if I could see if we could get that money moved over and do another apparatus. And to my surprise, pleasantly surprised, we was able to keep the payment the same, basically the same as it's always been, so the money is already there in that line item.
So we're asking for permission to purchase a fire truck.
I'll make a motion, man, that we get permission to purchase.
Mr. Lenore makes the motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Olive seconds his motion. Just point of clarification, do we need to be specific and talk about we're doing a lease purchase, Mr. Lawrence? Is
this to advertise for the purchase, or is it to actually do the acquisition?
to buy it? Because we're buying it on state contract.
Okay. I mean, and I think that, do we also have in the record exactly what we're buying?
Yes.
That be made a part of the record?
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
Along with the terms of the lease purchase?
yes, sir.
If, who made the motion?
I did.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to your motion to incorporate in it that what you're approving are the terms based on the state contract of what has been described in the written document?
Right.
Yes.
Whoever it was that seconded it, will you accept it?
Certainly,
Fine.
certainly.
It's the lease purchase.
And it's described as a fire truck, so many gallons from Farrar,
Right.
as per described in the fire
On
truck.
the international chassis. Yes.
Mr. Gordon.
Mayor Hawkins, could I ask also the amount of the purchase lease agreement?
How much is it?
Okay, the equipment will cost $223,328. The lease payment will be $26,495 per year, and we were already paying $26,800 and something.
What was the yearly amount?
$26,495.
Per year.
The interest rate on it, if you're interested, I can give you that. It's 4.176%.
Ooh, I wish I could find that.
Yeah.
Mr. Hamlin, were you about to say something?
Oh, no, I was talking to Willie.
Okay.
About what Derek said. I said, Willie, that's what you said the first time, went on his motion. That's what he was saying, but you just didn't hear it.
If you check the tape, you'll see all that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that have been put forth to us. Is there any other discussion? If in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose may say no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Do I need to stay?
Okay, this is a segue into item number 15, discussion on building department grant. We applied for a grant through the state. Is it Homeland Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security? Who's it through? No, I'm sorry. Building Division Administration. Yeah.
Building.
This grant is tied to the initializing implementation of the new International Building Code, which the state passed, adopted, approved, specified a couple years ago, and to help municipalities and entities transition to have capacity to implement this. We got a grant for, was it 50, well, two of them.
Two grants, and this recent grant was for $54,200 and some dollars, and this would be to purchase a truck, a sport utility vehicle that would be fully equipped, and the grant will pay for it 100%.
And even though it's a SUV, but not a sports utility, it's that kind of vehicle in order to carry
the equipment and the technology that'll be in it.
Now, and the vehicle, by the way, does not cost $54,000.
No, sir. It costs $18,000.
This building will be used by the building inspectors as they go on their routes and go to properties to document, to do the measurements, to do the tests. And there's a lot of equipment with the help of Mr. Floyd that we are purchasing to facilitate the whole effectiveness of the permits department.
Yes.
The building permits department is under the auspices of Mr. Montgomery, and that's why he's presenting this. So we need your permission and authorization to purchase this vehicle using the funds that we finally got.
Yeah, we finally got. Thanks to your help, may I add.
But we finally got, and that's where we are.
That is a total of the vehicle and the equipment, right?
No,
the vehicle is.
The vehicle is $18,000, $17,995 to be exact, and the rest of the equipment is computer stuff that we'll be purchasing.
The computers and the technology and the support that goes toward purchasing, installing, and the operation of that equipment.
But they will all be covered by the grant, right?
Everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And what was the total of the grant?
54,000, and I forget. I don't want to quote
That's
the
close enough.
hundreds.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor and the fire chief the ability to make these acquisitions using this grant money, the vehicle and the equipment.
Okay. Mr. Gordon makes a motion.
I second.
Ms. Robinson seconds his motion. Is there any discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed may say no. The ayes have it. I need to skip item 16. Is that? Oh, I'm not ready to do 16 right now, so I'm going to omit that one. The airport operations manual. I think you've had this for some period of time. Is that correct, Ms. Litchfield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We need to take action on this manual. Is there any discussion first? Any discussion on the manual?
Man, I'm behind with you. I didn't complete this manual. It had no problem with Mr. Litchfield.
Mayor Hawkins, is this something we need
Okay,
to...
let me let Mr. Hamlin finish.
Well,
Okay, Mr. Gordon.
Is this something that we need to take immediate action on tonight, or is this something that we could take into further review and make a determination on a future date?
Well, my problem is we've been doing this since when, Ms. Litchfield? Since September. it's been here and hanging in limbo. Come up, Mr. Litchfield, would you come up? And at some point, first, you have the prerogative to take action or not to take action, but at some point, we're going to have to adopt a manual. If we need to have a call meeting where you can sit down with Mr. Litchfield and staff and discuss it, let's set a date so we can do that and bring it forth, and we need to adopt it because we keep passing on and going from there. So whatever your pleasure is, but we got to set something. If not tonight, let's just set a time so we can do this.
Sure.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to call a special meeting and do this?
I'll make a motion as such.
We just need to set a time, if that's agreeable. Okay. Let's do that while we're here. I really would prefer that we do it, especially before our next council meeting, which is going to be April the 10th. So check your calendars and let's see when can we arrange. You available?
Yes, sir.
That was a statement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's talk about a time. When do you want to do this?
What about sometime next week?
Okay, next week is the week of the 17th,
Whatever day.
Tuesday, 18th.
Tuesday 18th's good for me.
5 or 6?
I'd say 5.
5 o'clock Tuesday. Conference room in here.
Conference room.
Court schedule.
Court officers go.
Well, this is mainly going to be it's a public meeting, but let's try for the conference room. If it's larger, we'll move from there. 5 o'clock conference room. Let us make due notice. Tuesday, the 18th. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And if you have any questions, as you review it, if you have any questions between now and then, please call Mr. Litchfield, and he will spend time with you to explain whatever it is that we need to do. Okay. Wow, we're moving. Any other business to be properly brought before the mayor and board of all the persons of the city of Bastrop?